I'm not trying to diminish anybody because I've been doing this show for about 8, 9 years now. But oftentimes I have a guest on my show, that really, really excites me. So today, for a lot of reasons, I'm very, very excited about our guest here because I know one time, and this was a long time ago, I was interested in somebody, and then I devised a poem called "Phenomenal Woman," and that poem applies to this young lady. I'm not going to read the poem now. Don't ask me to read the poem, but it certainly applies to this young lady that I'm interviewing today in the person, Mrs. Anita Reynolds Howard, counselor and JD and attorney and all of those other good things, newly elected and all of those good things. So I'm very, very proud to have you on my show, DA Howard, DA to
Well,
be
thank you.
Howard. Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you. And I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So how you doing?
I am doing well. We are in the transition phase now. The election was June 9th. And so now we're in the transition phase, doing a lot of meetings with judges and law enforcement and community leaders, other elected officials, getting prepared for January 2021 when I actually take office.
For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure that's not many folk, but Anita Howard, Reynolds Howard, is the newly elected district attorney. For what district or what circuit is this, Anita?
It's the Macon Judicial Circuit, which is Bibb, Crawford, and Peach counties. And I would just like to say thank you to everyone that paid attention to this race and everyone that was open for change. We just from the beginning, I know we had a plan and a prayer, and we prayed and we had a plan that we got that we got out to the public, and the voters, they answered with a mandate. So I just want to thank all the voters. I would not be district attorney elect without them.
Yeah, yeah. Now let's take a minute, if you would. Incidentally, this is a call to action,
That's right.
and I'm your host, Alex Habersham. And I got so busy with the introduction until I guess I better tell you who you're listening to. But if you would, Attorney Howard, talk to the community about the functions. A lot of people hear the word district attorney, but a lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize the importance, significance, and impact of the position that you now hold. And just kind of, if you would, discuss, how you try to work it from both sides, not only the people who commit infractions, but also the victims and trying to prevent occurrences like that and what have you. So just kind of giving an overview, if you would, of what
Mhm.
your job is.
Okay. Well, the role of the district attorney is really the most crucial role in the criminal justice system. And the reason why I say that, and many people, feel that, and that's taught in classrooms, is because the district attorney decides what cases are prosecuted at what severity, what cases go before a judge. No case gets before a judge without a district attorney putting that case there. And so that goes into who is offered alternatives to traditional forms of prosecution. So I believe the district attorney's role is two-part. First, traditionally prosecution, and that can be achieved, in various ways, but then also prevention. And that is where I think that is different for a lot of prosecutors. Traditionally, prosecutors know how to prosecute crimes, send people to prison, that type of thing. But prevention is really where, you have, like myself, progressive prosecutors that are focusing on the goal, which is keeping or making sure that communities are safe. And that is the number one goal, or it should be the number one goal of a district attorney as the lead law enforcement officer, is the safety of the community. And you can achieve that in various ways. And so that is what I talked about in the campaign. So whether someone has, say, a felony charge or misdemeanor, or whether they're offered a pretrial diversion, or some type of residential treatment program, if you're talking about someone who is addicted to drugs, things of that nature, versus them just automatically going to court and having to only option that they are offered is prison. So I believe that we need more progressive prosecutors so that we can make sure that folks are offered different alternatives, because we know that we have a criminal justice system that is broken, and it has disproportionately affected African Americans and those of lower economic status. And the only way that we can make sure that we have equitable outcomes for all is to change the system from within. And I believe the number one role to change that system is the district attorney.
That is absolutely phenomenal. And I guess that helps to explain, and now we're going to have a conversation about this, because I think it's a misnomer. But I think the concept, and not in Central Georgia, but across the country as it relates to all of these protests, they've come up with an expression that says defund the police. Well, I don't think that defunding is actually meant. I think that's a bad word. The impression that I get, and if you would address it, I get the impression that a lot of people are thinking that, well, more money, police budgets are fine. But by the same token, if you could take some of that money and put into programs and activities to help prevent, these kinds of situations, because there are certain conditions that are common to most criminals and most neighborhoods that criminals come from. So are you saying that more resources should be directed maybe into alternative sentencing and other programs that will really keep people from even being in a situation where they would have to face a district attorney?
Absolutely. And when we're talking about resources, we are talking about, of course, money, but we are also just talking about time and energy. And, it's easy to get in this methodical kind of way of doing things where, every case that comes across your desk is the same, and every family is the same, and every victim is the same. But that is not the most efficient way, I believe, to be a prosecutor. Everyone has arrived at a particular place by, their own walk. And so we've got to figure out what that is. And it's not just about the person who is accused of a crime and the victim of the crime. It's also about who all that crime affects, because the crime affects more than just those two individuals. The crime affects the families, the children of individuals who have been convicted of crime. So we got to take a step further, because we are leaving so many fatherless children, hopeless children, to raise themselves, or the streets are raising them. So, we know who we're sending to prison. And, as district attorney, I've been a district assistant DA, I've been a prosecutor for over 15 years. So, I know there are going to be some people, for your safety and my safety and the best interests of the community, that we are going to have to send to prison. But we've got to then ask those follow-up questions about their children, and try to put community support around their children so that they won't later need correctional control.
Right. Well, now, this is not your first rodeo.
It's not. No, sir. No, sir. Not at all.
Talk a little bit about your involvement in the process. I know I had the opportunity to work with you when I was spearheading a juvenile program in one of the outlying counties, or maybe a couple of them. So talk a little bit about your experience and what you've done, so we will let the community know that this is not your first rodeo.
Yes, sir. Well, as I said, I've been a prosecutor for 15 years, and I prosecuted in superior, probate, accountability, as well as juvenile court I've even argued before the Supreme Court of Georgia. And so my experience is vast. As you said, I was a juvenile prosecutor for our 3-county circuit for approximately 8 years. During that time, I established a pretrial diversion program for the juveniles. I also partner with different individuals in the community to try to bring forth, positive change for our juveniles, so that we could reduce the school to prison pipeline. As you said, you were a part of that. And, what I really enjoyed about the programs when you did them, it was life skills, and then it was life skills. It was, how to better respond in certain situations. You also brought individuals who had, been a part of the criminal justice system, adults, to, show the youth that this is just not the way of life. This is not what they want. So programs like that, I think, are so important and imperative, and mentorship programs. And so, we did a little bit of all of that. And so now I am predominantly assigned to Superior Court, Probate Court, and Accountability Court. I've tried cases all the way from something as simple as speeding all the way to murder. And so, I've done a little bit of it all, been a part of many multidisciplinary teams. And so just having the knowledge, especially from that juvenile court background, of juvenile court, we take a holistic approach. And I honestly believe that's the approach we need to take with our community, even adults, a more holistic approach, offering community. There's such a big difference between community support and correctional control. And I know that we can hold individuals accountable without destroying lives. And so that is what I will do as district attorney.
Okay, so do you already have in mind the kind of initiatives that you want to see? I know you want to mirror some of them, but in talking about them, go ahead and encourage and solicit community support, because you're one person. That's and right. You cannot effectuate, if you please, the kind of change that you want to see without support in other areas. So just talk about some of the other areas. There may be somebody looking or listening who feel like they too, because it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a community to make the community better. So talk a little bit, if you would, about, what kind of entities and organizations and programs, that can help you in your endeavor to make this a better community.
So one of the things that I'm really excited about, actually 2 of the initiatives actually kind of go hand in hand. So is the District Attorney Accountability Council, and we've already had great interest in individuals that want to be a part of that council. That council will act as a type of a liaison between the district attorney's office and the community. We will also talk about policies at the DA's office, but more importantly, we will talk about initiatives that the DA's office, that we think, these initiatives are a good idea, but bring them before the council. If anybody has programs that they want the DA's office to be a part of, they will actually come before the council to present to make a presentation, those programs be assessed. But what's so important about the biggest role that I think is going to be so important is that's where the district attorney's case flow analysis will be evaluated. I believe that we cannot change what we refuse to measure. And I talked earlier about the fact that we know that the judicial system, the criminal justice system, has disproportionately affected African Americans. But when we're asked, well, how are we doing in Middle Georgia? What do those equitable outcomes look like? Do we have issues of mass incarceration? What we've been told is, well, we do things fairly. Well, Mr. Habersham, I don't think we know any more than we knew before we asked the question. And so we have the data. And so what I want to do is take the data. When I first get in office, we will measure that data. We will see where we are. We will present that to our accountability council. And that information also will be presented at various town hall meetings that we will have. I just believe that we have to be transparent. The only way that we are going to build the community's confidence in a broken system is to be transparent and to make sure that we are being accountable to the community. And that we're making sure that other folks are being accountable to the community. And so those are two things I'm really excited about. Two of the other initiatives that I talked about during the campaign is a youthful adult offender program for nonviolent adult offenders. And this really focuses on community support instead of the correctional control, because make an assessment if individuals have their GEDs, doing community service. Restorative justice, that is something I think that we are really lacking here, where you bring make the victim a part of that healing process, not just listening to what the victim says, but making sure that defendant knows how the victim feels. Because it's not just about breaking into, I know you're a businessman, and I know breaking into your business is more than breaking into your business. It's breaking into the sacrifices that you've made, I'm pretty sure, away from your family, away from your wife, away from I know you have a beautiful granddaughter that you probably much rather be with right now, but it's sacrifices. And I don't think people understand that when they violate someone's, property or business, or things of that nature. So making sure that the defendants understand that this is more than you just breaking in, trying to get something that you can pawn. You are breaking into, sacrifices that individuals have made. I believe we've got to do a better job of human connection, so that we all can have greater empathy with one another.
Wow, that's outstanding. Well, I know the race is over, but I think there were some messages in your ways, in your race, because, it's been purported that there is so much racism in our community that, nothing ever happens that really reflects a community coming together on an issue basis, not on a racial basis. So, you are African American, you're a Black woman.
Yes, sir.
And you were in a race, that was for the entire, not only 3 different counties, not only Bibb County, but you did phenomenally well. Now, I think, Counselor,
Yes,
that
sir.
helps to dispel some ideas and some concepts that, there's no way that if you're of one race, you can get a sizable percentage of the other race. I don't think it should be based on race,
Right.
and I think your race, you're being an African-American woman, last time I checked.
Yes, sir.
Born
and raised. Right?
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, you got 75% of the vote.
Well, it was 70% total.
Okay.
Bibb County, I believe, was 68%. Peach County was 82%. And Crawford was, I believe, somewhere about 75%. But total together, it was a little over 70%. I believe it was like 70.01, 70.08, something of that nature. Yes, sir.
Regardless of those statistics.
Right.
I'm glad you said them. But what that means is that a lot of people they're pulling the lever, of the opposite race, voted for you.
That's right. That's what that means. Yes, sir.
Yeah, they voted for you. And, it's kind of encouraging, and I mean this from both angles. It's kind of encouraging to see situations wherein decisions are made for voting based on what's best for the community, because we're all in it together. And we all want to do whatever it takes to improve the general community, because a rising tide raises the whole ship. So we would like to see, talk about the dynamics of how you feel, what you think played a major role in your being able to get people to cross the line
Mm-hmm.
And vote for you?
Well, first, I know that it was, as I said before, this campaign from the very beginning was led by God. It was God led, and it was people driven. And we worked very, very hard. We did not stop working. I worked every day like I was behind. I know
Everywhere.
typically,
You were
right.
like those bugs there everywhere.
Exactly. And even on election day, when other, candidates were not out, we were out. We, and I think that also made my volunteers work even harder because they saw how hard we were working. I didn't want to, I was not going to leave any stone unturned. I was going to know on June 10th that, when I woke up, I had done everything that I could do. And we just got a message. And, one thing that we don't typically, well, let me speak for myself. One thing that I have not typically done, I did it once for President Obama, but that was it. I see now the importance of donating to campaigns. And I don't think for the people that I'll speak for the people that I know, as African Americans, I just don't think the folks that I know, we've talked about it even since my election. We don't do that enough. And someone can have a good message, but you've got to have means and money to get your message out. And so if there's anything that I can say just to, everyone, but specifically, if we want to see more African-American leadership, leadership of excellence, then when there are candidates that come along, we've got to donate to those candidates. Whether it's, there were little ladies at churches that would roll up $5 in their hand, and it meant the world to me because not only then everybody becomes a part of the campaign. It takes ownership in the campaign. So I don't think for 2 seconds that I did this by myself. I know that this was a community effort, and it was people telling other people to go vote. It was people taking their families to go vote. I had people send me messages. I took, 5 of my family members to the poll today. So that's how you get the 70%. You don't get those numbers simply by just advertising alone. You got to have a buy-in from the community that, this is something that they want. And this is just as much as the community's race as it, as it was mine. And when I see individuals in the community, I remind them of that. I could not have done this without you all. People don't get numbers that look like this without everybody being involved.
So you must have had, you could talk a little bit, and I know you want to shout out to them about your volunteers. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, my volunteers were wonderful. They, even during COVID, they were coming to the office and they were making phone calls. Our campaign alone made over 30,000 live phone calls. We did robocalls. We, placed signs. Any type of advertising, we did it. And my volunteers, they were making the calls, and even during COVID, they were still saying, well, we still want to make the calls. So we had a system that they could actually make the calls from home, and they can get trained on Zoom, and they were just dedicated. We were, towards the end of the campaign, towards the end of early voting, we were making anywhere from 500, that was a low day, to some days we had 1,000 calls a day that we were making. And so, when you're doing direct voter the best way they say, to get votes is direct voter contact, which is basically going door to door. We couldn't do that because of COVID, but we could make those phone calls, and that's what we did. And we did mailers. But my volunteers, they were amazing, even on election day. Got to give a shout out to my really, really good friend, Deborah Gomez. She had 13 volunteers that worked the entire day on election day. 13 people. She closed her office down. They were at every poll, everywhere. And then we had my other friends, Ashley Cooper and Ken Barton. They have a firm here downtown. They're both lawyers. They were there, I know, for at least a half a day. And so, when you have lawyers who are standing in the sun, holding signs, wow. You can't beat that. But also, it's just the average people, retirees. And what really touched my heart the most was our student volunteers. We had 3 of those that were dedicated. They were actually paid interns. So I was glad that we were able to offer that opportunity. But one young lady, she actually was a Peach County High School graduate, dually enrolled at Fort Valley State. She'll be attending Clark, Atlanta, but she wants to be a district attorney. And so that just, I knew regardless of what the result was going to be on June 10th, I had done everything that I could do. And I believe I gave the people something to be proud of. I gave our young people something to look up to. I believe they saw something they had not seen before. And so I was going to be at peace. Now, I'm definitely happy that we were successful. But, my husband, Todd, and I, we talked, and we just knew that we felt like we knew we ran a good race. And so we were happy with the race that we ran, and based on the result, the people, they were happy too.
Right. Well, we can't finish this interview because I've noticed in all of your biographical information, you mention your parents, and
Yes.
for 2 reasons, I want you to mention that, because I want to emphasize the parents, the roles that we play. And not only your parents, anybody else who influenced your life that resulted in your being a phenomenal woman. So just go ahead and talk about your parents and
I'm sorry now.
Your parents and whoever else you want to talk about.
Okay, well, first I want to highlight my wonderful husband, Todd. So, it was so funny. So through the campaign, people would say, we wish y'all well on y'all's campaign. It really is a joint effort. And I had someone say to me, if more, women had supportive spouses, we would see more women elected officials. So I definitely want to, say thank you to him. And then my parents, Annie Reynolds, my mother, Annie Reynolds, and my father, Willie Reynolds. My mom was a school teacher, wonderful woman. She even subbed at Ballard Hudson, so she knew a lot of people here, in Macon. I'm a proud daughter of Middle Georgia. And then my father, I can't say enough about. He was elected official in Crawford County, graduate of the Fort Valley State University. His friends volunteered on, election day. One of them was Miss Essie Sneed. She was Miss Fort Valley. Her and her mother were at one of the polls in Fort Valley all day long. So his friends, they showed up, and, it was wonderful. And it was great for my father as well, because he has given so much to this community, and it was just an outpouring of love and support for him. So we just thank everybody.
In the middle of that, but we're about running out of time. But I want to take the last few seconds and congratulate you, wish you Godspeed.
Yes,
and I
sir.
want to encourage the community, everybody. You've got some good ideas and you've got some suggestions that's going to improve the entire community, and a rising tide raises the whole ship. So congratulations. You've done a phenomenal job in running a campaign and getting elected, and I know you're going to be a phenomenal DA. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Habersham. I appreciate it.
This is a call to action, and I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed District Attorney-elect Anita Reynolds Howard. Congratulations. You all have a great day.